highly doubt everybody is here for our certified survey map tonight. So I'm assuming everybody's here for item number 4. There is no public hearing here tonight. So what's going to happen is everybody who wishes to speak about item 4 needs to speak during the citizens comment. The only one that will be allowed to speak during their agenda item is the applicant. So whatever anyone would like to say needs to come out during citizens comments, because after that, there can't be any heckling. There can't be anybody saying anything. I mean, I will shut it down immediately with that. We will kind of maintain order in here. So, so when I call for citizens comments, which is the second item, come on up to the microphone, state your name and address, make your statement. If you're repeating something from someone else, you could just say, hey, I agree with them on all their points or these points. You're more than welcome to give your statements. It's just, we don't want to be here till 1 o'clock in the morning. So repeat statements, maybe just try to come together on those. So, all right, with that being said, I'm going to call to order the Plan Commission meeting at the Richard Young Fire Station on Thursday, September 1st, 2022 at 6:32 p.m. Roll call, please.
Chairman Osterman,
Here.
Supervisor Flotecker,
Here.
Commissioner Nelson,
Here.
Commissioner Mouche,
Here.
Commissioner Eberly,
Here.
Planner Sumwalt,
Here.
Attorney Macy, and Clerk Capazzo Ketch to record the minutes. Building Inspector Brian Ailhoffen, Engineer Mitch Lysis, and Administrator Kathy Nicholas are all absent and excused.
Thank you. All right, that is going to bring us to item 2, which is comments from citizens present. Would be like to be the first to go. My microphone's on. We're good.
Thank you. I'm Nicole Berg, BERG, North 71 West 22371 Good Hope Road. I am not here to destroy a business. I just don't believe that is the right place for this business. My husband and I live right next door to the west, and we do not want this. I also submitted the petition of everyone on Good Hope Road stating they are against this. Some are here today to speak their truth. My husband is 52 years old. I am 48. We also appreciate cars. We have a 2018 Hot Wheels Special Edition Camaro. We won second place at the Sussex Car Show this past weekend. I have a clean record, and so does my husband. We purchased our home as a residential property, use it as a residential property, deeded, assessed, and pay taxes on our residential property. When I heard a rumor this was a possibility, I pulled up the town of Lisbon zone map, which shows my house historically R1. I didn't even know there was a completely different zoning map for Waukesha County. Who would have known that? Why would the town of Lisbon and Waukesha County have 2 different zoning maps with 2 different zones for our lot? We wouldn't be here today, or why wouldn't the town of Lisbon mirror Waukesha County zoning map or vice versa? Now, if we go with the town of Lisbon zoning, we wouldn't even be here today. Waukesha County zoning map overlay shows our lot split as M2R1. Waukesha shoreland building rules states 10 feet minimum, except that where a lot abuts on a district boundary line of a more restrictive district permitting residential use. The zone changes and abuts in the middle of my property to a more restrictive district. I looked at the map and I couldn't find anywhere that the shoreline abuts directly on a district borderline. That is a mapping error. The 200 feet minimum offset from a residential or agricultural district, this building would not even be 200 feet from my neighbor's residential lot. Lot size per shoreline ordinance, 1 acre. Their lot is less than 1 acre. Minimum average width, 150 feet. Their width is only 115. At the last meeting, there was talk about using the best insulation to help with the noise. You can put the best insulation, soundboard, and keep the doors closed with the AC on, will only solve 10% of the issues. We still have a parking issue. There is already an overflow of cars. The backyard is full where he parks 3 to 4 vehicles on his front lawn and down the neighbor business driveway next to them. Would that be allowed? Then we have, as video evidence submitted, registered and unregistered vehicle testing issue with him test and driving at high speeds on Good Hope Road and Town Line Road. We also have an issue with friends and clients, registered and unregistered vehicles coming and going. Most of the vehicles are not trailered in and out. I know when I have my car fixed, I want to see if the problem is fixed. So when his friends and clients leave, they also test their cars at high speeds up and down Good Hope Road and Town Line Road, stepping on the gas and making the cars backfire and all sorts of noise. This noise is around the clock. We also have a burnout concern, also submitted videos. These burnouts are facing Good Hope Road. If he would lose control or car malfunction and hit a passing minivan with 5 kids in it, what would we say then? You can always tell when the police have been to his residence, as an hour later, the noise is worse for days. Who is going to monitor this? I'm not trying to ruin anybody's business. I hope what I said today is not faced with repercussions, as I do not wish any ill will on Chris or Nick. I just want to speak my truth. I just want peace and quiet. You, the board, have the right to deny this proposal to protect the adjacent properties and the public interest and welfare, as his illegal business has been and would be a hazard, harmful, and a nuisance. Thank you.
Thank you. Who would like to go next?
My name is Robert Gall, Gall, address N72W22454, Good Hope Road. Ladies and gentlemen, you probably don't know the gentleman that is applying for this building. I know him as Speed Racer. I've been at my address for 22 years. Ever since I can remember, he has been racing up and down Good Hope Road with no regard to safety. And it isn't just speeding. Ladies and gentlemen, it's reckless driving. He's going well over the speed limit. 20 miles over the speed limit is reckless driving. They test the cars, they go up to past the railroad tracks, make a turn, and they give it holy hell. It's only a question of time until he, his clients, his friends kill someone there. I don't feel that what he wants to build there in any way is going to lessen the dangers that he puts forth on Good Hope Road. Thank you.
Would like to go next?
Antone Build, north 72, west 22286 Good Hope Road. And I would just reiterate what both of the people just got up and spoke to. Yeah, 100% on everything they said. Police have been called multiple times to this property to no avail. And I agree, like after the police leave, then it's like punishment time. Okay, so we're gonna rev our motors all night long. And then and all hours of the night. Burnouts in the driveway, on the street, the speeding, the reckless driving. And then a lot of times it just, these cars are so loud that even when they're just idling, okay, in my living room, I live across the street with the doors shut, air conditioning on, TV on. It interferes with my, with me watching the TV peacefully. That's how loud it is. And the windows sometimes shake. So not much regard for the neighbors or the neighborhood. That's what I'm seeing going on here. And, I'm not sure if someone like that could be a responsible, operate a responsible business. So again, everything they said, 100%. So thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Would like to go next?
Good evening. My name is Gary Anderson. My address is N72W22467 Janine Lane. I am not on Good Hope. I am in the subdivision right off of Good Hope, a street behind. And I'm going to test everything they say. I've listened to these cars race up and down the roads. I've seen them come out of the driveway. I've seen numerous police come in and out. I just don't buy it as a residential area. I don't want to demise a business, but I don't think it's a place for a business in a residential area. We have young families, young kids, and I just agree with everything that everyone has said. All I got. Thanks.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth Stricker, and I'm at N72 West 22298 Good Hope. I want to go now because I'd like to agree with what was just said. All the comments ahead of it, I agree with, but I do have young children. And I want to say that over the years, recent years, because of the noise of this business, which sounds like thunder from my house, it has scared my children awake many times late in the evening. It always makes them think that there's a thunderstorm with lightning. And the business operations have been very loud after their bedtime. And this is on school nights often, or on just family nights. And anyway, kids need their sleep. So that's one of the problems that my family has faced. And I also want to point out that I am opposed to the lights that have been proposed on this plan. I find them unnecessary. I'm not sure why they would be deemed necessary, because if the work is being done inside a building, then the building would have lights indoors. So I'm not sure why, commercial lights that would be more suitable for a parking lot would be installed. And I do want to speak against that because my family likes to be outside trying to see the constellations and the stars many an evening, and it does diminish any light pollution like that. The haze from it, they can put in the kind of lights that they try to diminish that, but it'll still make a big light pollution problem and diminish the enjoyment of our hobby. Thank you.
Thank you.
Charles Gall, N72W22418 Good Hope Road. Agreeing with the fact that the noise of revving motors and squealing tires has been an extreme problem for years at this location. One of the times I called the police, one of the several times I called the police, the dispatcher asked me, "Is that tire squealing I hear in the background?" And I said, yes. So as I was on the phone with the police, the dispatcher could hear tires squealing. I also agree with something that was said, that the proposed building site is listed as an M2. According to Lisbon and Waukesha, an M2 lot needs to be 150 wide and over an acre. This site does not meet either of those requirements. Not only that, but I do not think there should be any business in my residential neighborhood. The fact that this is a race car shop only adds to the problem. I don't understand how a business can be put across the street from my house. This is a residential neighborhood and this should not be allowed.
Thank you. Does anyone else wish to speak?
My name's Matt Ladkey, N71 W22395 Good Hope Road. Since the last meeting, we were here at the last meeting, we found out about it the last minute, and I remember one of the board members asking, have anybody heard from any of the other neighbors? Well, nobody knew about it. We literally found out about it about an hour before the meeting. This has been very stressful between myself and Nicole, and Dave are in between me and the property. And we've known these people for a very long time. My history in automotive, I love race cars. I was on a race car team for 20 years. My son races motorcycles, been doing it competitively for 15 years. If we ever test our bike, it's about 30 seconds in the yard, maybe once a week or once a month, if that. These race cars are very loud. And Nick even admitted it in the last, he said very, very loud when a car's doing its two-step roll up. There's a time and a place for this. This is not the place. This is a residential neighborhood. Granted, there are businesses behind us, and most of it's M2. Years ago, some of it was agricultural. I'm looking into the history of this zoning, the historic zoning of this property. The reason the Shoreland district was created, because it's a waterway. It actually just runs to the property in question. It's just a little bit east, maybe 50 yards, if that. Well, I can tell you this. There's a pump station on the corner there. This zoning district was created, this shoreland boundary was created so Waukesha County, I'm guessing, they could help fund any kind of underground tunneling or anything like that that may have to happen. There's a big pump station on one of our neighbors' corners. It's actually directly across the street from the property. That when it rains last week, it rained pretty good, and the whole ditch fills up. I mean, you can literally stand on the road and do a headfirst dive into the ditch. That's how deep this water goes. And the alarms will go off in the middle of the night. You'll see lights on the pump station go off. That's why this boundary was created. Now it runs right through the middle of Nicole and Dave's lot. Where that boundary goes through their lot, if you actually looked at the elevations on their property, there's a low swale right there. I think the elevation is 915 feet. That runs right up to Christine Cole's side of her house. It's 915, slightly goes up to 916 feet. That whole area fills with water. When we get a good rain, that you can go out there, it's calf deep. It'll roll right up to their existing garage. Now we're going to build a 100-foot building with a shed roof that comes down to that side of the property. That's going to make it even worse. You're going to have 6,000 square feet of water draining onto that property every time it rains. And like I said, all of those houses right there, including across the street, directly in that 915 to 916 square or foot elevation, they have all flooded. I believe the one neighbor directly across the street from this property, I think her basement's flooded 2 or 3 times, and she's had major insurance claims on gutting out her basement. So speaking of the zoning again, the comprehensive plan for Lisbon, this whole area, and it was even talked to from the planner of the day of Waukesha County, that this zoning was, comprehensive plan for this is low density residential. And Nicole touched on this a little bit about the boundary. Okay, so most of the boundaries of the districts, they're pretty straight lines. They're lot lines, maybe a little curve here to the next lot. This boundary, the shoreline boundary, goes all over the place. There's really nowhere it meets that criteria of abutting on a lot line. And I heard the town attorney last meeting, he kind of nailed on it a little bit. These shoreline districts are constantly delineating throughout Waukesha County. What happens when this one gets delineated, it gets shrunk down to nothing? Is it still an M2? Well, no, it wouldn't be an M2 anymore. It would be a residential lot. And last meeting, board member Everly, he specifically said this is a mistake. That was his exact words. This is a mistake with the historic zoning of the town of Lisbon controlling this property. I also emailed Jason Pruth from Waukesha County. And I asked him, I said, we talked last week, explained shoreline boundary areas, basically had lots of blanket zoning. Do you agree with the split zoning on the Berg's property was a mistake? Excuse me, or oversight when these boundaries were placed? His reply to me, and I have it in an email, the zoning map is an adopted map. I can only speculate that I believe that the zoning designated may have been applied in error, as it's quite unusual for smaller parcels with residents in our zoning jurisdiction to be zoned for industrial purposes. So there again, I have a board member and I have the Waukesha County planner of the day kind of admitting to it, not really, but it's his job to do that. He's defending Waukesha County, I'm sure, a little bit. But I'm sure if something like this went to court, which none of us could probably afford, I think we'd have a pretty damn good case. Last meeting, Nick admitted to running his illegal business for 4 or 5 years, not just 2 or 3 years, out of his 3-car garage. I've kept my mouth shut. I never called the cops, but after talking to some of the neighbors, a lot of them have. What's the environmental impact on this? Since he's been running it there, no floor drains, no nothing. We're washing antifreeze and oil right down into the water. We're all on well water. Where's this stuff going? What's the plan for the new building? I know he's gonna have an oil drum, but cars parked outside. Nicole touched on the cars. I'm not gonna go on into that, but the nuisance and public safety, the rest of these people are gonna kind of testify to that. I just think, once again, we're gonna prove something over a technicality. And I think if this went with the town of Lisbon's comprehensive plan and the zoning, we wouldn't even be here because these would be residential lots. I looked back to aerial photos and these lots have had houses on them since 1941. Sporadically, mine's the last one, mine's the newest one. The Bergs was probably one of the newer ones as well, but these have been houses forever. And there are businesses behind us, don't get me wrong. And there was a quarry back there and that got condemned. There is a landscaper back there, but he fits just fine with us. He's not noisy. He doesn't, we deal with it. And Mr. Eberly also hit on that, or I think it may have been, that there was people that thought that was a mistake when it went in. That was a weird situation because the owner of that house originally built it, John Wheelock. But since then they've partitioned that lot. So it's residential in the front and then M2 back, but it's all part of that shoreland, which those are all residents still there. I just think we shouldn't be awarding somebody that's been a nuisance. And I've been listening to it a long time. I take it with a grain of salt. The last couple of years, it's gotten worse. And I feel like if we award them this business, that it's just gonna escalate the sound. And we really don't need it. So I think it's up to this board. I kind of know the process now from kind of educating myself, that it'll go from this board back to Waukesha County. So your decision tonight will go to Waukesha County. Waukesha County Planner of the Day and their staff will ultimately make the decision what to do with this property. But I can tell you that in their response to the town of Lisbon, that they kind of almost put it back on you. Not really. It's just, it's politics. I get it. But I think this board owes it to us as citizens to deny this and let Waukesha County make the decision, and give a suggestion. Why you have citizens here that don't like this. And then also, sorry, I lost my train of thought. Yeah, let them decide and we'll go from there. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak? Is there anyone on Zoom? All right. I'm going to call last call then for anyone who would like to speak during citizens' comments again, and except for the applicant, this will be your final opportunity to speak tonight. Okay. Close citizens' comments then. Item 3, approval of the meeting minutes. We have the June 2nd, 2022 Public Hearing and Plan Commission minutes and the August 4th, 2022 Public Hearing and Plan Commission minutes. Is there a motion on those or any questions?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chairman.
Second by Ed Nelson. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries 6-0. Or 5-0, excuse me. Item 4 then, unfinished business. A, discussion and necessary action on request by applicant Nick Coleman for approval of a site plan and plan of operation for the property located at North 71, West 22339 Good Hope Road, tax key LSBT 0237.980 for a custom car shop in the M2 zoning district. Applicant is here. Come on up, Nick. Or whoever's representing you.
My name is Nick Coleman, North 71 West 22339 Good Hope Road. I don't even know what to say. I'm 30 years old. I don't, boy, I really don't know what to say. I didn't really realize I was terrorizing these people with this noise. I know, as stupid as it sounds, I'm in my own little world. And sometimes I forget there's other people. And one thing I've learned in the 30 years of life is when you have a problem with something, you go to the person that you have a problem with. And I not once have seen a single person that's standing or sitting behind me in this room come to me and say, please be quiet, shut up. I've never had that, not a single person here. So for everyone to say all this in this meeting, I stand here and I don't know what to say to you guys. I have to say, I'm sorry to everyone in this room. I really do. I am sorry. You know, being 30 years old, there's maturity. You get maturity as you age. For the last however long I can remember, I've loved race cars. I loved ripping them, you know, but I never once thought about other people like I do now. I was recently in an accident the last few years and I broke my arm, and I realized life can be short and you shouldn't be rude to people and mean to your neighbors. And I really don't know what else to say because I'm like just so taken back that nobody could come and say anything to me in these however long everybody's been dealing with it. So
Have you had the police respond to your house for any kind of noise complaints?
I have, and that's recreational stuff, like I was saying in the last meeting. This has none of that pertains to my business. That's me having fun with my own cars or my friends having fun with their cars. So when we talk about business, I want to be professional. I want to change how I do things and make other people happy. I don't want this. I don't want people pissed off.
But did you think the cops just showed up or did you?
Oh,
think
no,
somebody
I
called?
understood people called, but when you call the police, that does not change anything. When you have a conversation with your neighbor, you're supposed to be neighborly, I thought. If you had a problem with your neighbor, wouldn't you think you would go to your neighbor and say, hey, I have a problem with this. You need to stop. But if you call the police, what are they going to do? They're not going to do anything. Maybe if you would come to your neighbor and say something, then things would change.
So you're saying that with the police responding, that wasn't incentive for you to stop doing what you were doing?
Absolutely not. That's just who would make that happy of? Why not come talk to your neighbor? Why not say something to your neighbor about the noise instead of just calling the police? Isn't that something you're supposed to do when you're a neighbor? I guess I just misunderstand how things work.
I guess for me, if the police responded to my house, I'd stop doing the things that the reason why the police came.
And we do stop doing that day, but I guess I took it as, okay, that's enough. You've done it enough today. I didn't necessarily understand that people just didn't enjoy the noise at all, period. Not that anybody enjoys the noise, because I get that. Man, real ignorance on this one, apparently.
All right. Oren, you got some information back. Usually we start with Oren, but
I did. So maybe I'll just recap since we have folks here that weren't here at our last meeting. So the application before the Plan Commission is a site plan and plan of operation. This was something that the applicant started with the county and then came to us for a planner appointment and then made a submittal. The Plan Commission at its last meeting tabled this matter to get a response from the county on 3 different questions. And that information was provided by Jason Fruth, the planning manager for the county. And he provided that in an email in writing, and so I put that into my staff review in red, what his responses were. So the 3 questions pertained to what would be allowed moving forward in the existing private garage that's attached to Ms. Cole's residence. The second question was pertaining to the offset and whether or not the county agreed with my interpretation as it is their ordinance. The third question was, is the county bound in any way to abide by the town's decision on this site plan of operation? So I'm going to start with that one because it's germane to this process. So the site plan provisions of the county ordinance state that both the town and county are charged with considering action on such requests. Towns are granted the ability to waive their review authority or to delegate that authority to town staff if they so choose. Most town plan commissions in the county choose to make a recommendation regarding such requests to Waukesha County. Waukesha County typically incorporates recommended town conditions into its action and considers the action of the town in making a final decision. So in this instance, because the jurisdictional authority for the zoning rests entirely with the county, because the property is entirely within shoreline zoning, the town is allowed the opportunity to make a recommendation. So the county, in Jason's response here, is saying that he would like you to provide a recommendation, but that some communities choose not to. So your options this evening are to, for the application before the Plan Commission, approve, deny, or take no action. Those are your 3 options. The approval authority does not rest with this body. Whatever happens tonight will be forwarded to the county. They have the ultimate approval or denial authority. So on the second question regarding the setback or the offset, if you will, from the west property boundary, it appears as though the lot in question does not abut a district boundary line of a more restrictive district because the east part of tax parcel 0237978 is zoned M2. So that would be the adjacent property to the west. And we heard from the property owner of that parcel here this evening. However, the intent of the above described provision appears to be to keep adequate separation between M2 uses and less intensive uses such as residential. The subject parcel is substandard to M2 lot width requirements. The required M2 minimum average lot width is 150 feet, whereas the subject lot is approximately 115 feet wide. This appears to be a legal non-conforming condition. Because a significant setback and vegetative buffer between M2 and residential uses was provided for in the above section, and because the town and county land use plans call for low density residential use for the subject site and the immediate surroundings in all directions, appropriate use and site layout consideration should be explored to ensure compatibility with the adjacent residential uses to the west, north, and east. And to the answer for the first question as to whether or not the, if the commercial building was approved, what uses would be allowed or not allowed in the existing garage. The response was, in reviewing the site plan and plan of operation application made to the county, it is not clear whether the existing garage building is being proposed for business use or how the existing garage would be used in the future. The submitted site plan depicted a new proposed building of 60 feet by 100 feet and showed all existing buildings on site, including the existing garage. The existing garage did house an illegal business operation at the time of our site visits in 2021. The town may want to consider conditions or action relative to the use of all accessory building spaces in the action regarding the pending request. And then the county would consider the application materials and the town's action on those matters. regarding one of the questions that came up about the county's zoning. Shoreland zoning exists in areas where there are navigable streams or lakes. And there's a certain distance from those that the county creates a buffer from, essentially, that creates the extent of their jurisdiction. So 300 feet from a navigable waterway. In this case, the waterway that exists in this area at some point via the DNR was determined to be navigable. The county claimed jurisdiction, as they have the right to do. So that's why we have county zoning in this area. And the Christine Cole's parcel is entirely within that. The reason why you could get a parcel that is partially in and partially out, again, is because they're measuring from that water body out a certain distance, regardless of whether, you know, where property boundaries are. They're just measuring out a certain distance from that, claiming that as the jurisdiction for the shoreline zone. That's why that exists. So in addition to providing the responses from Jason Fruth, I also made some changes to the conditions at the end of the report under the staff recommendation. I changed the hours of operation to match the discussion from the Plan Commission. What was discussed was 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. I added under uses and activities that all automotive work associated with the automotive performance shop shall be limited to the inside of the new commercial building. The use of a dynamometer on the subject property is prohibited. And only personal vehicles registered to one of the occupants of the accessory single-family residence may be equipped, serviced, or repaired in the private garage attached to the residence. Also added condition 3 that states the property shall be brought into compliance with Chapter 5 nuisances of the Town of Elizabeth Code, subject to the satisfaction of the town building inspector prior to the issuance of a building permit. So those were the changes to the staff report from our last meeting.
Sounds legally binding for me to shut up. Sounds legally binding for me to be quiet around the neighborhood. So I can't make noise,
Well, I think,
Right.
one
that's
of,
what
one
that
of the
would mean.
one of the things that this body has to consider is, could there be conditions applied to an approval, if that's the direction they want to move, that would mitigate noise and the concerns that we've heard at our previous meeting and tonight around noise. But again, the body has 3 options: to approve with conditions, to deny, or to take no action. Because regardless, it's the county that has the ultimate approval or denial authority over this request.
So chapter 5 of the nuisance law applies to every single person in this room. You're just being asked to come into compliance with it. So every single person has to comply with that. Myself, everyone here, and everyone in the audience that's from Lisbon.
Okay.
So that's not something special. That's just already the law. Okay. Any questions from the Plan Commission? Jeff, anything?
No, I wanted to thank Orrin for his work on this. I think he got about as much as he could from Waukesha County.
Joe?
I don't have any more questions. I believe the information provided by Orange from the county is sufficient for what I need.
Ed?
There are numerous items that were raised, obviously, by the citizens that live in the neighborhood. Good Hope Road has no pull-offs, realistically.
Pull-offs, like a
Meaning,
side.
in terms of,
Gravel.
it's a 2-lane road. Okay, going through a residential area, basically, from the traffic circle west into Sussex. It's a major commute route, okay? Your neighbors have indicated that clients use this to test the cars. These cars are noisy. Noise, what did I hear? Noise, traffic, cars parked illegally, illegal speeding. Of course, our chairman has already addressed the police calls. regard for your neighbors.
What would constitute parking illegally?
If
Let Ed finish.
basically this is a residential lot, you have a business, if you have, there's only, and I don't know how many, but there would be only so many cars permitted to be parked on your property. Clients' cars or your vehicles. And another comment was made about wrong location for this type of a business. The other comment, Nick, when you first talked to us about people not complaining to you. And should I say Mr. Mann or Nick?
Either way.
Either way. Okay, Mr. Mann. People do not, in general, like to be confrontational.
Why can't we have a conversation instead of a
Well,
confrontational?
outside of that, they do not like to be confrontational or come up to, for example, and say, you know, you're making too much noise. You've got to stop this. Hence, most people in our community will call the sheriff's office or call the police. So that's just a general human nature understanding. Okay, so based on what you've heard this evening, and you said, quote, I don't know what to say. We'll leave it at that. And at this point, I have no further comments.
Becky?
I would just like to thank everyone, the 9 or 10 people who called me with their opinions, for calling and expressing their opinion. And I have taken into consideration what Nick has said, but I have no further questions.
I too received a lot. I mean, more phone calls than I've received than almost anything.
I wish somebody would have said something to me, because it would
They-
have solved a lot more
Nick,
problems.
they
than
did.
what-
They
No,
did, they
didn't.
called the cops.
That's not calling me though.
Well, we're gonna
The
have
cops
to,
can't
we are gonna
express how
have to
they're
agree to
feeling.
disagree on this, but I will tell you general consensus is when the police show up to your house because you are making noise, it means you stop making the noise. They didn't do it once, they didn't do it twice, they didn't do it 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or 8, or 9 times. They did it at least 10 times.
I've
There's
only
10
had the police
records.
show up. Over how many years? That would be a question for me. How many years did 10 times happen?
I guess I did not remember what the time frame was.
So
but
if
it
there's a
was-
time frame, I mean, in the last few years, sir, I have quieted down quite a bit. Like I said, I got into an accident 2 years ago and I wasn't
Sure.
able to do anything but sit in my garage and cry. So I don't, and when these people say that it's been getting worse over the years, I don't know how that's possible. I've been at the racetrack because I crashed doing stupid shit. Like, and the racetrack is the only place for this kind of stuff.
I would agree. So
I'm-
if, let's go into the hypothetical, let's say this was approved, how are you gonna control people from speeding out of your business?
I mean, I have no control of what other people do, but I will definitely make it apparent that they need to chill out around my neighborhood.
I do agree you don't
That's
have
the same.
control over it, but we have control of whether or not we put a business there that draws this. kind of-
Correct.
Cause right now I'm on Google.
Yeah.
And there are black marks in front of your property. I
What?
did drive by your property
What? There's no black marks in front of my
on Google.
property at all.
This is on Google.
That could have been years ago.
No, it's in 2019.
All right, so that's what, 3 years ago already?
Sure, but this is still,
Nothing on my road has happened outside of my house
that was last summer.
on my property.
So those complaints were last summer, the 10 noise complaints.
Maybe for the 4th of July, was it close to that? I know we
I
were
don't have
popping off
those. I just know
fireworks.
that I can only state there were 10 noise complaints.
Okay.
So
And those noise complaints are not always for my car stuff.
mhm.
I have lots of friends, so I do have friends come to my residence.
Sure.
Because
I've
that
seen-
is also my house.
Right. I've
You
seen some
know?
videos. I don't know when they were from, but I mean, I've seen some videos, you and your truck speeding down Good Hope Road. And those were your videos. I mean, they
For
were on
sure.
your Facebook.
Yep.
It's just, if you were in an industrial, now, it's never okay to speed and everything else, but I mean, the Butler area is an area where there's racing. I mean, there's race shops, everything. There's shops with dynos. Nobody's speeding up and on the road, but they're making noise in an industrial area because it's the proper place to do it. And see, this is some of the problem we're looking at. Nobody that called me buried you. They didn't speak of Nick Holman, the man, as much as they spoke of the noise. They spoke of, they don't want this noise. They're not trying to say you're a horrible person, but they're saying we want our peace and quiet.
I want to give them peace and quiet, and that's why I wanted to put up this building so it can contain it. I don't want these people to be mad at me. I never want anybody to be mad at me. I'm the nicest guy ever. I would give you the shirt off my back at any given moment. I've helped a few of the neighbors with some of their problems. Like, I don't want people to feel that way as much as I don't want to feel the way that I'm feeling because of them coming in here and stating what they've said.
Sure. Okay. All right. So
I
guess-
feel literally terrible. I feel like a terrible human being to these people.
I think even no matter what happens here, there'll be some healing in that area. And how you do that and how your neighbors do that with you is gonna determine whether or not this becomes an area with big
And-
neighbor dispute area, which I
mean,
hope it
even
doesn't. So I
since-
hope everybody can just come together no matter what happens here tonight on this.
I mean, even since the last meeting, I've gone off of everything you guys said, stop working, no on weekends unless it's my own stuff, like I have my own stuff to do. So I've been trying to make a change immediately because I don't want this. I don't want this ever
Mhm.
again. I don't want them to ever complain about me. I don't want to be that guy.
Sure.
Don't.
Okay. At the plan commission end, is there any questions anyone has for Nick at all, or is there anything else to talk about? I guess that's gonna be the biggest part.
I have nothing, Mr. Chairman.
No, Mr. Chairman.
Jeff?
I guess I'll explain, my vote. After the fact.
All right. Anything else from staff? Anything else you want to state before we ask for a motion on this?
No.
Okay. So as Orin said, we have three options. Essentially, we can take no action, we can vote to approve or vote to deny. I guess one thing I'm going to broach with the plan commission is, since we do not have control over this, and let's say hypothetically there would be a vote to deny and the county votes to approve, would we want to send them an option of
If you're of a mind to approve it,
right, some conditions for the site plan and plan of operation? Is there any thought on that, or discussion on that tonight? Unless this is just gonna be flat out approved, I guess that would be a no point, but
Mr. Chairman, my opinion is that, not to give the county, recommend an option to them. That's my personal opinion.
Jeff?
I really hadn't thought of that. Although I thought of a recommendation to the county, but it has nothing to do with the plan of operation.
Ed?
I would go along with Commissioner Everly
Becky?
on this issue.
I would go along with Joe and Ed.
Okay. All that being said, does anyone wish to make a motion on this item?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman, to recommend to the county denial of the application.
Okay, moved by Commissioner Everly to deny. Is there a second to that?
I will second that.
Second by Ed Nelson. Discussion?
Do you want to direct the staff to include any reasons as part of the?
Yes, I think that's a good idea.
Okay,
I would say that my motion is based upon the fact that I don't believe the proposed use is compatible with the surrounding residential zoning and residential use.
okay. Ed, you were the second. Do you have anything you wish to add?
I would concur. This is a,
Oh, excuse me.
these decisions are never easy. This is an unfortunate situation. But at this point, I just unfortunately think, even with past history, and unfortunately, it's the wrong scenario, the wrong place for this type of business in a residential neighborhood.
Mr. Chairman, I would add that according to the information received, the subject lot is substandard currently legal non-conforming, not meeting the minimum width and size requirements for M2 district. And for that reason alone, I think you can deny it. Current zoning, the M2 zoning is inconsistent with the county and the town's comprehensive plan, which calls for residential zoning in that area. You know, if we would approve this, I can see a situation where we have a little M2, less than 1 acre M2 thing surrounded by residential properties and no substantial buffer because it can't be provided. The intent of the offset requirements in the M2 district is to provide adequate separation from M2 type activities and to areas that have less intense use, such as residential. And this is where my suggestion would come to the county. Why don't you rezone this to a residential? After all, that's the way it's being used now. And it's consistent with the master plans or the comprehensive plans of both the county and the town. That seems to be the proper way to go. I mean, we're a plan commission, so let's plan, you know. And that's off my high horse there.
Okay.
That's all I had.
Becky, anything you wish to add?
No,
Okay. I do concur. I'm gonna say, number one, I'm a speed guy. I've raced most of my life. I like speed shops, to be quite honest with you, but I do agree this is not the greatest area to put this. Now, there is a shop like this that's less than a quarter mile away. And I could see how Nick would feel. Why is he allowed to be there and not here? Well, it's in Lannon. That's all I can say to that. It's a lot, it's over there. It's more industrial, but we're in the motion stage, so there's no more. So I could see how he'd feel that that's a bad deal, but that's the reason. I mean, to be flat honest. So I do not agree with the county's assessment that just because a little bit of the M2 touches that lot, that it should be considered an M2 lot. I just think I think common sense on that one is out the door. The lot is substandard, so that's obviously going to be an issue. And I think that's probably where the county is going to look to deny this at the end of the day. But anyone have anything else to add before a vote is taken?
Chairman, I
Yep.
had one comment. I had one similar situation where they felt very strongly it should be denied. And there was a recommendation, a firm recommendation to the county, but they did say, if you were of a mind or you feel you have to approve this, we would ask that be returned to the community for either review of conditions or suggested conditions. So that there, you don't want to temper down your recommendation. You don't want to interpret that. You have to say to them, this does not in any way mean that we don't feel strongly about our recommendation. It could be just something that we could put them on notice of too, without making it.
I think Mr. Macy brings up a good point. I think it's valid. I think that the motion for I'm trying to wordsmith this properly. I believe the motion should be to strongly recommend to the county denial of this application for the reasons stated by the other commissioners, but add the caveat that if for whatever reason the county should decide to approve this, that they first return the application back to the town, as Attorney Macy stated, for recommended conditions of approval. I think that wording of a motion of that way sends the message to the county that we're adamant about the denial, but for whatever reason that we still want another kick at the cat, if for whatever reason they decide to consider approval.
The second, okay with that?
yes,
Okay. All right, is there anything else anyone would like to say? All right, hearing none, we'll be voting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The motion has been passed 6-0 to deny to the county. All right. We're gonna move on to item 5, new business. I'm gonna say if everyone's clearing out of the room, please use your heads outside. Would probably just avoid any conversations tonight and just go to your vehicles and go home. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thanks. Right now, we're about to start another agenda item, sorry. You can call in the morning, to call the town hall or call one of us. Oh, okay, if you just call Elisa tomorrow at the town hall, she'll let you know. Just gonna wait a second for everybody to clear out.
Yeah, you know that number? Never mind.
Thank you so much.
All right, item 5, new business, a discussion and necessary action regarding a 2-lot certified survey map for the northeastern portion of Lisbon Business Park East and recommendation of the town board of the same. Warren?
So my involvement with CSMs is usually pretty minimal, but this
I can take it otherwise.
this finishes off the business park east development by creating some final saleable lots, which I believe there are interested parties in. And so the town's engineer has put together the proposed 2-lot CSM. Lot 1 has an area of 5.858 acres. Lot 2 has an area of 7.484 acres. And these properties will both have access from Leeds Lane. They both have the B4 zoning and both meet the zoning district requirements as far as minimum size and width.
Mr. Chairman, this has been submitted to Menominee Falls for extraterritorial review and it is going through their process right now. I did speak with Mitch, our engineer, before tonight's meeting, and he said that both of these lots will only have access to Leeds Lane. They will not exit out onto either County Highway F or County Highway V. Someone did ask about that previously, so just wanted to clarify that.
Are you 100% sure of that?
They may have access to it right now, but he said, Warren, do you recall the word he used? He said that they would have to have
Access restrictions.
access, access permits. Yep, and the county won't give it to them for new access.
Same concern that I
Which is a little unusual because there is already access there.
have.
Right.
As soon as the CSM is filed, it's all over.
Mhm.
The county has ultimate jurisdiction.
Okay, is there any questions from the planning commission? Anyone wish to make a motion on this item?
I'll make a motion to approve the CSM as presented with the provisions of the staff recommendation from the town planner as far as comments, conditions, concerns of the town of Lisbon, town engineer, planner, and town attorney, and also, obviously, the approval of the Village of Menominee Falls.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner
And this
Nelson?
is a recommendation to the,
Right,
to the
yes.
town.
Town board, yeah.
Yes. Sorry, Mr. Vince.
All right, any other discussion?
No.
No.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries 6-0. Item B, discussion only regarding preliminary draft amendment to Lisbon zoning code. Is section 3 sub J of the off-street parking and addendum E of the design standards.
So as we build out the business park, we've had, well, I've been involved with only one of the projects, but the plan commission has seen 3 proposed developments. Wyckoff has been built out. And I suppose the other ones are in other stages of development and due diligence. So the issue of parking has come up in the Bryan North proposed development. If the letter of the law as far as parking was met by the applicant, the number of parking spaces that would be required was very high. They were not meeting that with what was proposed, so there was a condition that they would have to either deal with the board or the Board of Appeals. Essentially apply for a variance or figure out something else. The odds of getting a variance for parking for a situation where you're proposing less than what's required, again, probably not great. So the last time we looked at these parking standards, we narrowed our focus to specifically one component, which would be the retail business establishment. What we're finding is that we're running into other businesses in this proposed, in this business park that we're trying to develop. Industrial buildings, it's an issue. The current standard is very high. Same would apply for other uses like wholesale, office, and restaurants. And forget about the stuff that's already happened. There's going to be 4 other developments coming forward in the future for these 2 lots that we just are being proposed to be created this evening, and then the other existing lots on the east side. And then we'll have another business coming forward for the south lot within Bryan's development. That'll be an industrial type building as well. So what's being proposed is something that would bring the standards in line with comparable communities. Specifically, it would be comparable to what's currently on the books for Sussex. What's being proposed isn't anything edgy. This isn't going to bring you to the forefront of parking and the current trends in parking that are out there, but it aligns the standards more closely with the needs of businesses, in my opinion. So what's being proposed for wholesale buildings and industrial buildings is 1 space for each, and we're going into the thousands of square feet rather than hundreds of square feet. So it was where it was 3 spaces per, a certain 100 square footage of floor area. Now we're talking about thousands of square feet of gross floor area. And 1 space for employee of the largest work shift. Really, that's what it comes down to for that type of use is how many people are going to be working there at a given time. You got to provide parking for those people. They don't have a lot of off the street traffic at these industrial and wholesale type businesses. If they do get people calling on them, it's pretty limited.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. I just the only concern, I think this is great. We finally got into the 20th century, much less 21st century. But the only thing is, and I apologize for not finding it in here, but I want to make sure that the plan commission and or the town board still has an out on this, that if for a particular development, there is a reason that we can usurp this on a project by project basis. If somebody comes in here with a project as an example, and I know this is only for discussion tonight, which is fine, but I want to make sure that we have a way that we can get more parking than what this says if a particular project demands it. If there's a reason for it. And as long as we've got that provision there, and that's the only concern I have with this. Otherwise, I think this is fine. I want to make sure that we have a way to get something that we have a unique situation.
That's a valid point, because there's a skate land in the Butler Industrial Park that if we were to go into the industrial classification here, one space for every 5,000 square feet, there would be no parking, because it's basically a warehouse building that people skate around in, and that is several hundred people parked there at a time. You can't think of everything, but if there's a way we could do this where
We have a way to get to where we need to go. I mean, you could have, as an example, you could have a call center where you have twice as many bodies closer than what we are here at this table. I mean, and you just need to have them. And I just want to make sure we've got an out that we can do that. That's my only opinion on this, whatever.
It's worth quite a bit. And Mr. Chairman or Warren, question. The, one of the things that COVID has done is, of course, it turned our workforce upside down, especially for your generation. Is there, I mean, as we look around the metropolitan area, we're over parking lot. You know, with all these big box stores, who knows where they're going, but there's too much parking lot in most of our metropolitan areas. Do we address, I honestly didn't read this. I apologize for every inch of the statements. But can we also, I mean, to Jim's point, is it also built in? Joe, where'd I get Jim? I don't know. It's a J. It's a J. I know it's the shirt. So is this proposal also possibly looking forward as we struggle, as major businesses are struggling with this question, I know right now, as to how much parking are they really going to need moving forward? If we put a parking lot in, that parking lot could be there for 25, 30 years.
Right, and that's where the national trend is heading, is not having minimums and actually allowing the market to decide how much parking there should be, or even having maximum. Some communities have maximum parking standards now. So what I've done is built in a process under number 12, flexibility and application, that would allow the plan commission to waive enforcement or modification of the dimensional requirements and minimum parking requirements, subject to making a determination, which would include consideration of some factors which are listed there. So
And that, I believe, addresses my question.
Yeah, and I apologize because that's one of the statements I didn't read, and it's in red.
But I put my arm in.
but this one talks about waiving the minimums, not so much as increasing them.
correct.
I just want to make sure we've got.
No.
Both ways.
Okay.
It just requires tweaking that a little bit.
Is there a way to, Fred, is there a way to word it, like if there's a special case where it's recognized that there would be a lot more parking spots required, that
We could add I could come up with language to suggest to add, and it might be in the kind of the introductory paragraph, or it might be something that we add, you know, at the end. But I could certainly come up with some language to propose.
I think it's gonna be pretty rare that if if ever, that we'd have to increase it, but there's always, who knows what's coming.
Yeah.
I could tell you it came up. It'd be a good idea, if you're interested in it, it would be a good idea to have language that says you have that authority, because it came up in our last project that we just discussed, where I looked at where does plan commission have authority to do certain things? If you don't have the language that says it, it's harder. It's nice when it says what you can and can't do.
Just an ability for us to be allowed to do our job.
Right,
And that's,
correct.
and that's,
This is a job.
it's the same thing. It's, yeah, sure. It's 30 cents an hour plus tips.
So,
And Becky's doing.
as much as we didn't want to crack this back open, I'm recommending that we do so, even though I realize this is a Band-Aid, because it's not recreating the wheel, it's utilizing the existing infrastructure, if you will, what's in the ordinance. So if we're done discussing the parking aspect of the proposal, the second part is the design standards. I'll just begin by saying that this still has to be vetted by Sussex. They have a vested interest as well.
That was gonna be my first question. Do they even know this is coming?
They do not. So that's a conversation that we will have to have with them. I don't know how sacred the current language is, but
Is now the appropriate time?
Uh-oh.
Because the reason I'm asking is, I suspect, out of ignorance, that there may be more similar types of things once the incorporation takes place.
sure.
I mean, that I've run into this, you know, like, you do one thing and then you go back and then you go, okay, now we're gonna do things 2, 3, and 4, but that really impacts what we just did with one, as opposed to the whole package, because I envision, and I'm just speaking obviously to myself, that we're gonna have a number of items of similar nature, that once that takes place, that we can deal with these in a package and make it a realistic conversation between the parties.
So-
as opposed to just one.
Right, and this is a special deal. I mean, and I guess what I'm gonna say is I would prefer we don't even talk about this tonight. I would prefer Sussex be approached on this first to see if there's even an openness to this. I shook my hand on this, which for me is enough to be in agreement, but obviously we put this in a full agreement with them. And it was completely with good faith that it was done. So I do feel odd even bringing it up, to be honest.
Sure.
But I would really appreciate if we would talk to them first before we even do any kind of discussion here tonight.
Sure. The only thing I would add is that what's precipitating this is the development of the business park, and there are interested entities that would be impacted by this
It's okay.
currently. So I can appreciate wanting to do that, because that was the first
Yeah.
thing that came to my mind. I wasn't involved in the drafting of these. And the things that I'm, proposing in here are to provide this body the ultimate approval and denial authority as opposed to the board. Because the plan commission has approval and denial authority over site plan and plan of operation and conditional uses. So why not these standards that are part of site plan or plan of operation or conditional use?
I will probably vote against that, being I'm on the board and being that this could have political implications.
Sure.
Because people on the plan, no offense, guys, but people on the plan commission don't necessarily understand the political structure between the town and the village. And I would really appreciate the elected officials making that decision, especially since if 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, there's all different people on both sides and it ends in some kind of lawsuit. I sure would think the board would be the one making the decision on it.
Sure. And
I
I
think
take
that's
no
a
offense to
valid
that comment.
point, because at the end of the day, that's where the rubber meets the road. I mean, it's not I just mentioned that, it's kind of like a power grab by the plan commission. But at the end of the day, the decisions are made by the highest level of authority in each of the municipalities. So
And right now, the way things are, I mean, everything is going so well between
Yeah.
our two communities. I mean, this
We
is
want to keep it that way.
very, very nice, to be honest. So I don't want to give them any thoughts that we are trying to usurp them in any way, shape or form.
Yep, I think that's excellent point.
Does anyone wish to discuss the design standards any further at that
No.
point?
No.
No.
Okay. Let's move on to the planner report then.
So we had another full schedule of planner appointments today. We've already got a site plan of operation for our next meeting. We will also likely have another application, I believe. We have a possible CSM for the Lurch family. Okay, so we will have the concept review that was before the plan commission recently for the Lurch property nearby on North Lisbon Road. We'll be back for a proposal for a certified survey. I can't think of any other.
We may or may not have the,
Pizza Ranch?
yes.
Yep, you may or may not have the Pizza Ranch, which is,
I have a question, before I forget about it in my advancing years. About 4 or 5 months ago, we had somebody in here over in the northwest corner of the town. They came in with a chunk of land and they wanted to carve 2 lots out of that thing, but I think if I remember correctly, the message we gave them was go back, we need to do some planning for the general area there as far as access and layout and everything else. Has anybody ever heard from them? Does anybody remember what I'm talking about? Okay, I just thought about that the other night. Yeah, it was like they were carving something out of a larger parcel and it didn't make sense because it didn't address the adjacent subdivision and other land uses. And I suggested that somebody.
Boyd?
Was that the Boyd property?
yeah.
I don't even remember what it was, but I felt it was a responsibility of the town to do some planning in that area to help them to look at the whole.
That sounds
80
like,
acres.
yeah, that sounds like the Boyd property.
Okay,
They dropped that.
okay. That's the only thing I know. It's all my fault. I know.
That's all I have, Chair.
Anything else from anyone? Item 7 is adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
I invited Nelson. Is there a
Second.
Who did? Jeff? Jeff did. No discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We're out at 7:49. Thank you.
I think we did good.